1. While I'm not a server but a manager, I did work as a server at this restaurant, and this story is way too good not to share. So the scene is a busy fine dining restaurant located approximately 2 hours north of New York City. We're absolutely slammed with reservations, but things are running smoothly until these particular customers show up. There's an older couple, probably in their 60s. I'll call them GL, Grouchy Lady, and GM, Grouchy Man. This couple had an 8:30 reservation for 2. Upon arrival, the hosts had their table ready. When shown to the table, GL exclaims, "We don't want this table," with no real reason indicated. The host informs her that another table will be opening up soon, so if they would like, they could take that table instead. So they wait in the bar area for approximately 5 to 10 minutes while the second table is prepared. Because the restaurant was so busy, we were using our banquet area for overflow. There were 7 4-top tables set up in a room that can accommodate approximately 50. The host shows them to one of these tables when GL says, "We don't want to sit here either. It feels like a cafeteria." Mind you, I have never eaten in a cafeteria with low lighting, linen tablecloths, candles, etc., so the host informs them that no other parties are close to finishing, so their wait could be an additional 30 to 45 minutes. Overhearing this, I approach and offer to buy the couple a round of drinks at the bar while they wait. They accept. Fast forward maybe 15 minutes and I see GL is once again at the host station. She's clearly giving our hostess a hard time, pointing at her and just looking aggressive. I approach and step between. "We find it unacceptable that we made an 8:30 reservation and are now being forced to wait." "I apologize, ma'am, but we've already attempted to seat you twice, and you declined both tables. There was no note of a particular table or section with your reservation, so we had no idea that certain tables would be unacceptable." "Well, I find it offensive that you choose to put us in your back room. Anyone would know that's unacceptable." "Like I said, ma'am, you didn't specify that you wanted a particular table, but I can assure you that the next table that opens up will be offered to you." GL then turns to the nearest table and loudly exclaims, "The problem is that some people just won't hurry up and eat." Then my tone begins to change. "Ma'am, you have no right to talk to our other customers that way, and if you continue to do so, I'm going to have to ask you to leave." She throws her hands up and storms back to the bar. At 9:10, a table opens up in our main dining area, and they are seated. Upon doing so, GM asks the host to send a manager to the table. I approach, knowing I'm headed into a shitstorm, but I know we're in the right, so I'm not too worried. "Good evening, sir, I'm the manager. You had asked to speak to me." "Yes, I did. First off, I'm from Manhattan, so I know how a restaurant should be run." Internal eye roll. GM proceeds to tell me about the entire situation again, knowing full well that I've been involved from the beginning. After hearing more than enough, I interrupt. "Sorry to interrupt, sir, but I'm aware of the situation, and we've made many attempts to accommodate your party." "So you're not going to listen to my complaint?" "No, sir, I'm not. Because you do not have a valid complaint. Please enjoy your meal." GL then speaks up and tells her husband to drop it because they have a table now, and she just wants to enjoy their dinner. GM is clearly irate, red-faced, and seething. Server approaches and begins her greeting. GM cuts her off and states, "I will not be ordering anything from you, so don't speak to me." GL, perhaps seeing the error in her ways, then tells him he is being rude, and he shouldn't speak to the server that way. In doing so, she reaches across the table to point at him and tips over his complimentary glass of red wine, which spills directly into his lap. The customers at nearby tables, who have obviously overheard this guy's ridiculous complaining, instantly start laughing. GM jumps up and very loudly shouts, "That's it! We're leaving!" On his way out, he makes a point of letting me know that I am totally obnoxious, and he will be leaving a Yelp review within 10 minutes. To which I reply, "Oh nice, I love Yelp reviews. Such a reputable source of information. Have a wonderful holiday, folks." Said Yelp review was posted, but whatever. I'm not going to lose any sleep over it. Karma is real, people. 2. This is the story how I was fired from a crappy pirate-themed restaurant. It was years ago, but I've never really told the tale in its entirety before. So here you go. In college, I worked at this really awful theme restaurant. It was owned by a sleazeball named Peter and called Captain Pete's. Peter imagined himself a pioneer, creating a pirate-themed Hooters, essentially. He hired younger, attractive girls and made us wear low-cut, tight pirate get-ups, which he charged us for, which was technically illegal, but no one knew that. I certainly didn't. He also fancied himself a savvy businessman and cut corners wherever he could. Lovely stuff like taking leftover baked potato bits from customers' plates to reuse as potato skins, and replating any uneaten wings on our 25-cent wing night. Yeah. Health code violations up the wazoo. The place was tacky too, really tacky, and was divided into 2 parts. There was the main restaurant, which featured a few sad old arcade machines, and an ancient dirty ball pit no one remembered ever having been cleaned, in an attempt to be child-friendly. The restaurant portion was almost always empty. The other part was a seedy dive bar kinda setup called The Bilge. So proclaimed the neon sign over the door. To get into The Bilge, you had to walk down a set of 3 steps. This is where the drink machines were as well, which is important for later. Captain Pete sucked. It was an awful place to work. Truth be told, I kept that job because A, my roommate worked there too, so it was convenient, and B, they were one of the few places without a backlog of hires in my college town, and the hours were flexible. If I needed to take a night off to study for finals, no big. If classes got cancelled, I could walk in and get a shift, but tips were poor. Working conditions were awful. It was kind of a nightmare, complete with cheesy boot toppers that chafed horribly, and big ridiculous hats with enormous plastic hoop earrings affixed to the brims. Like most places, we had our regulars. There weren't many, but we had them. A few of the token older gents would come in just to pass the time, including one guy who always asked me if the coffee was fresh. No matter how many times I told him it was just a jar of instant I mixed in the back. There was also a sleaze bucket, who was friends with Peter. I don't know how they knew each other, but it fit. He demanded free drinks and discounts on his food because he and the owner were pals. And he never ever tipped. Not my fave human, understandably. One night, after I'd been working there about a year, I got sat with a 5-top. A mother with 4 kids, ages ranging from 3 to 4, all the way up to a preteen girl. This was extremely rare. Usually people with kids took one look at the dimly lit hellhole that was Captain Pete's and marched right back out. Not this family, but whatevs. Maybe they tip. With the exception of Mom, all of them ordered kids' meals. I felt bad for the preteen girl who kinda cringed as she ordered the kids' chicken tenders. So probably no tip. At least it was something to do, other than hang out in the back trying to throw ice into the fishless fish tank from across the room. So I go put in their orders and go fetch their drinks. Mom ordered water and the kids' meals came with a soft drink. I head down into the bar area to grab them and notice that Peter's pal is sitting there, in his trademark Hawaiian shirt, with the top buttons open, and cringe. At least I have a table to take care of, I say to myself. Did I mention that both Peter and his pal like to hit on the waitresses? Like, a lot. Unwanted advances, sexual innuendo, promises of payment in some cases. Yeah, class acts. So when Peter's pal, PP for short, starts leering at me as I fill up the drinks, I pay him no attention. He's making gross comments about my butt while I wait for 4 little cokes to fill up, and I'm mentally counting down the minutes until my shift is over. Same old, same old. Only this time PP gets bold. He's never actually touched me before. He said crap like, "Nice tits, can I take them for a test drive?" and other equally cringe-inducing things. But he's never touched me or any of the other waitresses as far as I'm aware, but today... Oh, today. Maybe he was emboldened by the fact that my hands were full, carrying a loaded drink tray. Maybe he'd just had a few too many. Whatever the reason, he grabbed my ass and kind of tucked his hand under my butt. Fuck that. I dumped my drink tray directly on him and hit him hard. I probably swore at him too, I don't remember. He starts screaming and sputtering, which drew Peter from his office.
That's assault! I want her arrested! Fired and arrested! Call the cops!
Sure, do it. I'm 17, asshole. PP and Peter exchange a look. Dead silence for a few seconds.
Get out of here. Just go, and don't come back. Yeah, bitch. Don't mess with me.
Whatever. I was actually kind of relieved, until I got PP's dry cleaning bill in lieu of my last check. 3. I am no longer a server, but was one all through college. I worked at a franchise of a chain of 24-hour restaurants that is notorious for cheap breakfasts and shitty service. Big yellow sign with red letters. Like all of you, I took great pride in my job and how I treated my customers. In all honesty, if I could find a server job that offered good insurance and steady tips, I would consider going back to it. I really truly loved waiting tables and making people's lives a little more pleasant, at least while they were in my section. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. I had several regulars that always sat in my section, but there were other servers that had their regulars as well. One of them was a really pleasant, jovial man and his horrible, nasty wife. She was the kind of woman who got off on being a bitch and making other people's lives miserable. One particular day, I had to cover some tables in a different server section because a server called in sick. I was warned about this couple when they came in, but had never waited on them before, so I wasn't sure exactly what to expect. I was told that she had a habit of complaining endlessly about everything, demanding to speak to the manager every time they came in, and berating the servers and cooks at every turn. The husband, who often came in by himself, was the opposite, friendly, good-natured, well-liked. As soon as they were seated, before I could even get their drink orders, the husband got up from the booth and walked outside for a few minutes, leaving me alone with the wife. I put on my best smiley, cheerful face and greeted her. She refused to make eye contact with me and instead scowled and snarled.
You would think that, as much money as we spend here, you people would know what we like to drink. Why do we have to keep going through this? I want iced tea, no lemon.
She didn't tell me what the husband wanted, and I didn't ask. I was just so taken aback by the anger straight out of the gate, and I just turned on my heels and walked away. I poured her an iced tea, no lemon, and brought it back to her. Before I could even set it down, she snapped.
I already know what I want to eat, and we're in a hurry.
Bear in mind that the husband is still outside. I took her order, still trying to be pleasant, and before I could walk away, she snarled,
And the last time you people brought the food out, it was cold. I do not want cold food, and I want extra cheese on my scrambled eggs, and salsa.
Her voice seemed to drip with more and more anger with every word she spat out. As I was ringing up the order, I thought of 1,000 things I wanted to do. Then I hit up on an idea. Instead of getting back at her, I was going to not only go out of my way to make her meal as pleasant and delicious as possible, but I was going to embarrass her as well. I made sure everything was perfect, piping hot, lots and lots of cheese on the eggs, fresh salsa warmed up to room temperature. By the time the meal was ready, the husband had returned to the table and was happily chatting with one of the servers. I mustered up my best scared and sad face as I brought out the food to her. As I sat it down, I started to tear up just a little, and expressed in gushing, flowery terms how sorry I was for how badly she was treated the last time she was here, and how hard I worked to make sure the food was absolutely 100% according to her specifications, and that I felt so bad for how she was treated the last time she was here, that I was going to pay for her meal out of my tips, and how I hoped that she would be willing to accept my apology on behalf of the whole restaurant for her miserable experience. I really laid it on as thickly and sweetly as I could. Her husband, who was happy and smiling and cheerful just seconds ago, stared down at her with a sick, horrid look, his face turning bright red. She was mortified, her face turning equally red. She hung her head and said, okay. I asked her if everything was to her satisfaction this time, and if it wasn't, I would rectify it immediately. She stared at her plate, pushed it around a bit, and said, yeah. The husband is staring her down, clenching his jaw. He politely ordered his meal, and as I was walking away, I heard him hiss at her. "What did you say to her? What did you do?" She was silent and sulking for the rest of the meal, and he was polite but not overly chatty. When they were finished, she stormed out before he even left the table, head hung. He apologized profusely to me for how she had acted, and left a generous tip on top of paying the tab. To the best of my recollection, she never acted like a bitch to any of us ever again. 4. Backstory. I used to work at a Mongolian grill that was all you can eat, so you could go back over and over until you were stuffed, or you could go through once and bring your leftovers home. It was about $25 for the buffet option, and $20 to go through once, or something along those lines. Kids ate for $13, and if they were 5 or younger, they were allowed to share with an adult since they didn't eat a lot. It was a small restaurant with maybe 20 tables, so I usually would serve alone during lunch, and at night it would be 2 servers. It was only hourly wages, but I got paid a lot more than a normal server would, and I was mostly stocking food on the line, bringing drinks, and cashing people out. It was a solid setup, and as a senior in high school, I had the best paying job out of all my friends. One lunch shift over the summer is always my favorite story to tell, because I got to personally deliver karma to someone who was a truly vile human. 2 parents and their kids come in. One baby who was maybe 2 and a kid who was at least school age, as confirmed later. It's slow, and I get their drinks set up for them, explain the pricing for everything and get them started. I notice them leave the smallest child in his stroller next to the booth, and go through with the older kid who then proceeds to put about 5 dumplings in a bowl with a bunch of noodles. Typical kid meal. 2 parents then tell him to sit down and make their own bowls, and the mom is carrying the bowl around, and has the cook make it separate from hers. 3 plates total are made. They do this one more time, which means they can't get the to-go boxes because you can only have a to-go box if you go through once. The kid also goes back multiple times to get more and more pot stickers, and I figured his count was at 20 by now. But of course they asked me for boxes. I'm sorry guys, you aren't allowed to get to-go boxes for all you can eat. It's policy. I say it robotically at this point, expecting the usual, "Oh, that's okay, fine." The mother is immediately upset. "You never said that. We hardly ate our second round." I've gotten a few complaints like this before. No problem. I memorized this part too. I explained how it works when you guys got here, and it's posted by the food and on the door. I'm sorry. You can't have any boxes. "That's not fair. We've been here lots of times, and that was never a rule. Next you're gonna say you're charging our kids for food too." Oh boy, was she in for a treat. The chefs start looking over at us, as we're right in the middle of the restaurant. I had worked there for a few months at this point, and I had never seen this woman in my life. They look at me like they want me to let her win. But none of us were really working for tips, and the owner was very specific with the rules, so I knew I was in the right to do this. "Well, I am charging you for one kid's meal because he's been eating his own bowl of dumplings this whole time. If he was just taking a little from you, I wouldn't, but he's having his own meal. Once again, it's the owner's policy, and I can't do anything about it. I'm sorry. I wasn't sorry." "Well, I want to speak with him. Our kid is only 6 years old. He hardly ate anything." I couldn't help giving her a face when she said he hadn't eaten, knowing damn well how many extra dumplings I had to fry for this one table. "He isn't here on whatever day it was. He'll be here tomorrow, if you call in the morning. The posting says kids 5 and under may eat with their parents, and he's eaten quite a bit. You can bring it up with the owner. I'm going to ring you guys up in the front if you're all done with your meal." I just wanted this entire conversation to end. The dad follows me, also pissed off that they have to pay for the food they ate. I rang them up for the 1 kid meal and the 2 adult all-you-can-eat meals. The woman then proceeds to walk up to the chef's station with both plates in hand. "Can I please have 2 boxes? That bitch server refuses to give me boxes and thinks that I should have to pay for my 4-year-old's meal." She yells at that poor guy behind the counter who didn't do anything wrong, but knew even better than me how much food they ate, so he just looks at me. "Ma'am, I already told you it's policy, no to-go boxes for the all-you-can-eat option." I call out to her, only making her face redder than the sriracha sauce on the counter behind her. The lady left her food on the counter and stormed out with the kids. The father paid and said the scariest, most heart-wrenching thing I've ever heard. "We're calling your manager and never ever coming back." I, of course, just smiled and said, "I'm so sorry to hear that, sir. Have a great day." I went and apologized to the other guests and explained the situation, and they all said sorry to me for having to deal with people like that. My relief server came in soon after, but it was a bit busier, so I helped out and told her what happened. I was bussing their table to get the guests ready when I found the mom's cell phone. Laughing out loud immediately and running to the back to show the chef. The restaurant phone rang almost perfectly afterward and I answered it. "Hello, Mongolian Grill, how may I help you?" "Hi, my wife and I were just there with our kids and she lost her phone. Do you see it anywhere?" The dad from earlier asks, sounding like his life is now ruined. And I could hear the pterodactyl screams of his wife in the background, probably tearing the house apart looking for it. "What kind of phone is it? I'll look for it," I say, pretending like I didn't know it was an Android with a blue case. I put the phone on hold and ran out the back dumpster, chucking the cell phone into it. I felt no remorse because I decided to be what his wife called me, a bitch. I came back in and my coworker who saw what I had just done was shocked. I picked the restaurant phone back up and said, "Well, I checked under all our open tables and couldn't find it, but I'll write a note down about it, so if anyone sees it, they'll call you." "Listen here, you lying brat." Oh, that was a quick change. "I just checked where her phone is, and it says the phone is there, so I'm coming down to find it." He hangs up, and I decide to stay and eat my food there, even though my shift is over. I wanted to see him look for the phone like an idiot. He shows up, looks under every table, and tries searching throughout the entire place to no avail. And goes up to me, glaring. "So you haven't seen it, really?" I smile, making sure he knows that I have 100% seen that phone. Nope. Maybe it's just bad karma. They did end up calling the owner the next day to complain, and he told them that I did nothing wrong, and then gave me a raise because he was proud that I follow his rules all the time. He also thought it was bad karma that they lost their phone. 5. I am the general manager at a small diner in the UK, and a few nights ago we had a table of 9 booked in for 7 p.m. Prior to their arrival, we had a kid's birthday party. Balloons, that stupid table confetti shit that you find 2 weeks after you think you've cleaned it all up stuff. The whole works. Anyway, they were made aware they had to be gone off their table by 6:30, so we had time to clear and reset for the next booking. That time comes around and I still have 4 kids sat there, their parents at the wine bar on the other side of the room. My chef calls me into the kitchen and tells me he has to leave because he is sick and refuses to work. Already fed up how he has acted the last few shifts, I agree to send him home and I cover the kitchen shift, as I started my work here as the chef, no biggie. I brief my staff and ask the kids to move on to a smaller table and get it ready for this booking of 9. 7 p.m. 3 of the party arrive and order drinks, and the others turn up a short while after. They immediately demand for their table, which wasn't quite ready as there was still confetti everywhere. They politely agree to wait at the bar for 5 minutes until it was clear. They decide that after 5 minutes, because their drinks weren't all complete, cocktails and coffees included, they would leave and come back. And said we expect our drinks and the table to be ready when we come back. No indication of when they would return, so they left. They come back half an hour later and we get their drinks out in double time to keep them happy. All is good, at least as far as I am aware from the kitchen. Roll up 11 p.m. we call last orders. I've closed the kitchen down and I'm back out front to help with the few final rounds that are ordered. This party of 9, still here, countless bottles of wine and gin litter the table. They order shots, fine. 25 minutes later, the big boss man calls over one of my newer waitresses and demands another round. She politely explains that the bar is shut and we close in 5 minutes. He says, "Oh no, that's fine. Just get them anyway." She comes to me and says he is still wanting drinks. I let her know that if he has a problem with it, then come talk to me, so he does.
Why can't I have more drinks? We spent a shitload of money, tipped you very well, and we want more drinks.
I explain we have license laws to adhere to, and I can't serve him. At this point, I can tell he is far beyond capable of even standing properly. So I also say he is too intoxicated and legally I can't serve him. This causes him to flip his shit and list off countless things about how shit the service was, shit his evening was. They had booked 3 weeks ago, checked the system, and it was only 1 week, and expected everything to be ready, etc., etc. I explain our situation about the kids' party, the chef leaving, and so on. He then carries on being rude and hurling abuse my way. I retain my composure until he decides to say that he has a business way bigger and better than ours, and he makes more in commission from one sale than I make in a month, and that he will knock me out. No idea where this even came from. I turn around and open my arms and say, "Go on then, do it." He doesn't, just stands there glaring into my eyes. I ask him to leave as it is now well past our closing time. He reluctantly does. Woo, it's over. Or not. Some middle-aged, grey-haired lady decides to carry on his argument, stating all the same things he did, so I repeat everything I said to him, to her. They're a small estate agency. I find their website. Oh, they have a section on who works for them, headshots included. I find the ugly mug who berated me, and it has his mobile number. What can I do with this? He is now going to get calls from countless sales reps and companies trying to sell him rubbish, pointless spam calls. I signed up via email and mobile number to as many "You've Won" style pop-ups I could find. I also happen to find a local property that they have up for rental. I use a prepaid SIM phone I have for festivals to make a reservation to view the house. I wait until this day and visit a friend who lives over the road. The silly woman who carried on his argument shows up, 10 minutes late, and is just waiting around for 20 minutes before calling my spare number to see where I am.
"Oh, sorry, I'm just stuck in traffic. I'll be there shortly."
I wait another 10 minutes and she calls me again.
"I'm just around the corner."
She waits for a final 10 minutes before leaving. Once she is long gone, I send an email to her complaints department with a timestamped picture of my friend. Not me, otherwise they would realize who was wasting their time. Standing outside the property. We took this 10 minutes before the agreed meeting time to make it seem like I had arrived early, and their agent never showed up, so we left. I'm still awaiting a reply. He had the cheek to come in again a few days ago with a friend. One of the waitresses who saw the situation above came and told me he was back in, whilst I was on my break. And I made an appearance, and he quickly finished his drink and left. Dick. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to Spinning Plates, number 24. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Okay, that's another video recorded, and I swear to God, I made the mistake of recording this one while I was a little hungry. I'm trying to eat less frequently, eat smaller meals right now, because it really does help with acid reflux if you do that, and it is helping. So I'm not stuffing my face quite as much as I used to. Although I definitely will over the weekend and probably right up to and after Christmas Day, to be perfectly honest with you. That's my excuse. It's Christmas, I have to indulge myself, it's Christmas, it's tradition. But I made the mistake of narrating these stories where they're describing food and things, especially all-you-can-eat buffets. Buffets. I tend to change my pronunciation of that word. There's like 2 or 3 different ways I do it. Buffet. And I was just getting hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And even though it is 8:15 in the morning, I should probably go to bed right now. I'm going to get a bite to eat first, because I will not sleep if I don't. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now. So until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.